Heads are rolling in the NHL, and that's why you are tuned and tapped into the Tuesday episode of your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. The Ottawa Senators are sinking fast. DJ Smith is out. What does it mean for their fantasy pieces? Adin Hill is out. Nathan MacKinnon on a heater, and all of the things you need to know in between. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody, inside the lab to the Tuesday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I am joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you sincerely every single day for making us your first listen. We see and appreciate you. Make sure you smash that subscribe button on YouTube. And we love all the feedback. Drop us that 5-star review, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at. It means a lot. We appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Steele, my brother, there is some things happening in the NHL, some good, some not so good. Obviously, the Ottawa Senators are on the side of not so good. And you and I come on here and give out a lot of predictions, previews, and everything in between. The Ottawa Senators, at least for myself, and I'm going to turn this over to you, were a team that I thought were going to be a whole lot better. So DJ Smith, he's out. Jacques Martin, he's going to be the interim. Let's talk about that right off the jump. But also, Adin Hill has been a number one goalie now for about a year, let's say a season, takes the team to the cup. He's very fantasy relevant. He comes back. He gets hurt again. We're going to talk about it. Nathan MacKinnon on a heater, 15-game point streak. Is his fantasy ceiling still rising, though, Steele? I want to talk about that. And, of course, Tuesday's big-time bets. I'm going to fermer la bouche. Turn it right over to you. DJ Smith, he's out. The writing's been on the wall, Steele. And Lauer, the owner, putting in his own people, Steve Staios and otherwise. You could see this one coming. Kind of surprised it took this long.
Yeah, it's about damn time that DJ Smith got fired. Like, I would have been surprised if he was still here by the end of the regular season. So it's about damn time because this Ottawa Senators team, for a lot of us, like yourself included, we thought they were going to be a lot better. And I'm not surprised by this decision to fire him at all from this organization. This was his 5th season as the head coach for the Ottawa Senators. Below 500 win percentage team, 4 out of the 5 seasons he was head coach.
Yep.
You've missed the playoffs every single season behind the bench as well. And I understand, they were still in the process of rebuilding and drafting the star players that they now have today. Only one season were they above 500, and that was last year where they actually showed a little bit of promise and only missed the playoffs by 6 points. You show promise heading into the next season with your stars, prospects, trades that you made the year prior, signings you made in the offseason, and then you go back to being a below 500 team, start the year off 11-15, dead last in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And obviously some things got to change at this time. And this time it does fall on the head coach. There's a lot of times where we discuss, where it should it go on the GM's head? Should it be on the players? Is it the players' shoulders' fault?
Yeah.
This is one of those times where it is the head coach because you have the star players. You've added key pieces on the blue line to your bottom 6.
Right.
Signed Jonas Corposalo. He hasn't played great, but you signed him for a 5-year or a 4-year, 5-year deal. And it's just not working right now. So this is the time that you got to fire the head coach because I'm not ready to write off the Ottawa Senators for the entire season. They have as much as 6 games in hand on some teams in their conference. So I'm not going to say that they can't do something, but if they're going to have any chance to climb up the standings and get back into the playoff race, they got to start winning games now.
The games in hand are also shrinking on a number of teams. Like Toronto has only played 28 games as well. So the point definitely still holds, and I'm with you on the fact of not writing them off wholeheartedly. Don't disagree at all. Because when you look at all the offensive talent, Steele, look, this team has enough offensive firepower, seemingly on paper at least, for 2 top lines. Drake Batherson, Vladimir Tarasenko, Josh Norris. We know Timmy Stutzle and Brady Tkachuk lead this team. Those are a lot of really good, aside from fantasy pieces, just on paper, really good players. And maybe this signing gives a bump to some of those guys like, Josh Norris. I know 9 goals, 7 assists, not terrible, but I think he has so much more capability. And maybe this firing lights a little bit of a fire under some of these players' steel. You've seen it right away with Craig Berube's firing with Jordan Kyrou.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is, you mentioned sometimes this falls on players. I usually tend to think it is the players that should be responsible. But in this case, they have the pieces, quote unquote. Jonas Korpisalo can be a goalie to take you on a run. He hasn't looked like it. They have a blue line when it's healthy. I think that's more than good enough to take a team on a run. And of course, we've talked all about Giroux in the mix up front as well. And all of the names I just mentioned. Disappointing up and down. I wanted to bring up DJ Smith's record as well as a head coach. 131, 154, and 32 in 317 regular season games is just not going to be good enough, Steele. But fantasy takeaway, and we can just leave it at this because clearly the team has underperformed both goalies because we liked, and I know I'll speak for myself, but I think you would agree. Last year, Anton Forsberg, before getting hurt, even the year before, very capable secondary option, a good fantasy flyer week to week. Both of them need to be better. Maybe this lights a fire under those two and lights a fire under the struggling pieces. By the way, please go ahead.
I will say this, though, going back to last season, I know he was injured a lot, but Cam Talbot was above 500 win percentage, 17, 14, and 3. And look what he's doing now in LA. I know it's a little bit of a better team, better situation there. But he's doing great right now in LA. And so I just had to throw that out there because he's my boy.
That is a very good point, however, because we were looking at the LA Kings in the offseason going, were you sure about this move? Bringing in Cam Talbot and Korpisalo going out. And look at how it's panned out for both teams. Anyhow, I'll just also leave it at this. There were a lot of Twitter warriors out there over the last season or two, Steele, specifically from that Ottawa region and this fan base. And I just want to point out that maybe those in glass houses shall not throw stones, if you know what I'm saying, because also bringing up the stats, Steele, this club hasn't qualified for the postseason since 2017. There were some fans in Ottawa ready to plan that parade, and I know that's a Toronto thing. I was hearing Stanley Cup. I was hearing deep playoff run. You might be the worst team in the NHL this year, and there's the San Jose Sharks and Chicago Blackhawks out there. So maybe keep it tapped up top. You're going to keep it tapped for the rest of the episode. We're going to talk Adin Hill very quickly. I'm excited to talk about Nathan MacKinnon, Steele, because I think this is a player, considering the echelon he's in, fantasy or otherwise. You and I haven't talked a ton about him, so we'll break that down. Big-time bets for Tuesday, of course. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team hits. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use. Steele and I are loving it. And there's a wide range of betting options to choose from. Spreads, player props, over-under. Steele and I loving the same game parlay. Tease the bets, which I have one for Tuesday night. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Big news continues out of Locked On Podcast Network. They've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's been up for over a month now. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day from local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I, making it your first listen every day. Continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all the love and support you show us every single day. And thank you so much for all of that. Let's continue on something the opposite of what's happening from the Ottawa Senators.
I just got to very quickly on that point, Steele. I'm seeing your tweet here from a little earlier. Leafs fans watching the Sens implode. And there's a comment here.
Yeah, I saw the comment.
I don't know about this, people. Make sure when your team is hot garbage, remember who you're talking about. Anyway, Steele, please take it away. That's my bad, because this Sens fan base is butthurt for a reason.
Hey, yeah. I'm trying to be the bigger person. I sent out a couple of tweets, little subtweets out there, but trying to be the bigger person while the Toronto Maple Leafs are killing it right now, winning some big games, especially that big 7-0 win against their former GM and Kyle Dubas of the Pittsburgh Penguins now. But let's continue talking about Adin Hill, the injury, the guy who really helped them a lot in the postseason, get to the Stanley Cup Finals and eventually win it. Adin Hill injured again. This one's shocking to me because I'm actually a fantasy owner of Adin Hill. I have him in my keeper league, and I didn't even know he was returning. It was so abrupt. Like, I was checking daily face-off. I was checking the goalie starts. I was looking at him on Yahoo, looking for any updates, didn't get any notifications. And unfortunately, I didn't end up watching the Vegas game either. I couldn't find any video of him actually exiting the game and what happened. But this one sucks a lot because A, I didn't even recognize it. And B, because he's been sitting on my IR collecting dust for 7 games already. Didn't hear the news of him coming back. And then you end up hearing about he gets injured again the next day when you go to look at the stats, or, you see it again on Yahoo with an update. So this one was very shocking for me. And it sucks to see him go back on the IR for a couple of days and rehab this new injury.
Not like if this had happened not coming off an injury, would it have been concerning? But the fact that he does come back and, they scored a goal on him. And I think it was, hold on, let me just have a look at whatever period it was. I think it was the first period.
It was the first period. He only made 2 saves.
First period. You have to think that a guy coming back after injury is obviously going to be very fired up to go in there, as in even if it's just like a minor tweak or you took a bad shot in a bad area, you're staying in there because you're hungry and you've been out. So the fact that it's serious enough that he immediately kind of goes over to the bench, again, this is speculation. I'm just kind of breaking it down how I see it. Adin Hill is the number 1 goalie for this team. And I know Logan Thompson is a very capable number 2, 1A, 1B, perhaps. In 15 games this season, though, Steele, 10-2-2, Adin Hill, 1.93 goals against and a 933. Before he got hurt, he was easily one of the best goalies in the NHL this season, just by pure numbers and by fantasy value. He was right up there. So when he gets hurt and in this fashion, we got to talk about it because, again, I think what did we mention this yesterday's episode? We were talking about goalies, Wedgwood's opportunity. Right now, not even week to week, just day to day, while they figure out what's going on with Adin Hill, Logan Thompson immediately becomes a good option. He's a very solid goaltender, and that's, I think, all that really needs to be said. By the way, saw your text. Why don't we save Canucks for tomorrow? Because I think they might deserve a little bit more of a deeper conversation. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We'll talk about the Canucks. Stay tuned for Thursday's episode. New segment. Steele and I are going to be bringing it every Thursday, talking about 3 trending hockey players, 3 of them. Start, stash, and drop. It's going to be a good segment. Stay tapped in. But Steele, Nathan MacKinnon, speaking of tapped in, my goodness me. And I think I'm going to speak for myself again. I don't think I've given this guy enough credit because, we have special names in the NHL. Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid being 2 of them. Connor Bedard comes in. He gets a lot of love. I'm going to say Nathan MacKinnon might get the least overall media attention, coverage or otherwise. I'm not going to say underrated because I believe he's properly rated. He is the first star this week. 15-game point streak, 8 goals, 19 assists, 27 points dating back to November 20th. I want to talk about Nathan MacKinnon, and I want to talk about what your take is on this because I'll hit you with it right now. I actually think his fantasy value and overall talent ceiling is still rising. And if that happens, he's now right in that conversation as next year. He's a top 5 pick, most definitely.
Oh, top 5 pick all the time for me. Like, there's no way if Nathan MacKinnon slides out of the top 5 in your fantasy league, whoever gets him, that's an absolute steal. Nathan MacKinnon is arguably a top 3 pick, and it is debatable on a few players, but for me, he's a top 3 pick. And I have Nathan MacKinnon times 2. I have him in 2 different fantasy leagues, and he's been absolutely killing it for me. I got him both times at number 4, which again, it's arguable, but debatable where you would take him. But at number 4, I'll take it every single day. And I'm, you talking about the Hart Trophy. Is he a dark horse a little bit? I mean, at plus 1,000, it's absolutely amazing odds for Nathan MacKinnon right now in the Hart Trophy race. I'm very surprised that he's actually below Jack Hughes and David
Oh,
Pastrnak
okay. I like it.
on the list right now. You have
Yeah.
Connor McDavid at plus 280, which I think those are the lowest odds you're going to get for him because his value is going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
Nikita Kucherov at plus 400 is very something to consider as well in the way that he's been playing this year. He's won a Hart Trophy once in his career as well.
He's definitely going to be in the consideration.
He's got to be in the consideration. Austin Matthews at plus 900. So those would be my top four right there. McDavid, Kucherov, Matthews, and McKinnon, especially Matthews if he can get 60, which seems like he's well on his way to doing so again. But you got to consider Nathan MacKinnon, especially at plus 1,000 odds. It's absolutely special. And I think you might be right. We have spoken a lot about Mikko Rantanen being one of those guys that has been always underrated and a little bit overlooked because of Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon. But now when you're considering all the other guys in the NHL and Nathan MacKinnon, we have not spoken about him quite as frequently as we should probably on this show. He's absolutely special. And with everything going on, with the NHL this season, it's hard to determine who the best player in the NHL is right now because Connor McDavid started off very slow. He's been picking it up obviously in the last 8 games. Nikita Kucherov on his paid another Hart Ross Trophy with what he's doing. Austin Matthews and Nathan MacKinnon, like I just talked about. So it's very hard to and Jack Hughes as well, what he's doing for New Jersey. But it's very hard to pick who's number one in the NHL right now.
I could throw in a few other names into that mix. How about Quinn Hughes? How about JT? How about JT Miller, your boy? And I know he's not, quote unquote, one of the most talented players in the NHL.
We're not the sexiest name to throw out there either.
No, but we're talking about getting it done. And if you're throwing out getting it done and connecting it to Hart Trophy, as in most valuable player to your team, all of those names are in the mix. Nathan MacKinnon, 47 points so far this season, 33 apples, 14 goals, 137 shots. He's not afraid to throw the body around. Good Halifax, Nova Scotia boy. Absolutely so much to love about Nathan MacKinnon's game, aside from what he actually just puts up on the board, his skating ability, his edge work, his ability to use his body to protect the puck, and of course, a lethal shot. I would say that aside from Connor McDavid, I throw out a couple of names out there in terms of skating ability. Jack Hughes, Jordan Kyrou can really put the skates down.
Your boy Sidney Crosby still got it in him.
Nathan MacKinnon is right up there as some of the best skaters. I know that's not a stat or really something that you might think about, but it matters because take a look at the players changing today's game. It's speed, baby, and that's why we're highlighting these names. I hope we're going to highlight some winning bets deal right around the break. Just had to give some love to Nathan MacKinnon. Also, just turned 28 a couple of months ago. So much left in the tank for this kid.
It's prime time for Nate Dogg in Colorado.
806 points in 740 career games.
Yeah.
Start paying attention.
It's prime time for Colorado, man. Nathan MacKinnon, like you said, his value continues to rise every single year, and he is not done whatsoever. We're going to try to not be done with those big-time bets, make some money for the holiday season. But this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. That's why we always use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals on all-in prices, views from your seat, and best price guaranteed. Last-minute ticket flash deals, zone deals, views from your seats before you buy the tickets. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on all your events. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us every single week of the month, Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to try to return that favor with some money for this holiday season from Big Time Bets. Flip, I'll throw it over to you.
Sure.
3 picks for Tuesday night. What's your first one?
Steele, Tuesday night's board. I always write down how many games it is, but I didn't tonight. Let me check this. 6, 9, here we go. 11 games. Right now, this is a tough stretch of the schedule for betting.
Yep.
A lot of players are, they've got the holidays in mind. There's family time coming up. This is obviously the NHL takes a 3 to 4 day pause on the schedule over the holidays. So if you're a team that's a bit beleaguered, if you're a player that's a bit banged up, you can't help but understand that these are going to be some games that they might be a little distracted. So maybe dial back the bet a little bit over these next coming weeks, and then let's dive into it deep mid-January when teams really start that second half push. Anyhow, that's a little bit of a preamble, which is why I'm going right back to one of the things that have been banging out for me, Steele. I think I've hit my last 2 or 3 same-game parlays, so if you're okay, I'll ream off all 3 very, very quickly because I think this is a tough board tonight. Colorado Avalanche are going into the Chicago Blackhawks, and I understand on paper, looking at it, you're going to go flip. There's going to be no value here on the money line for the Colorado Avalanche, opening at like minus 250 favorites. So we're hitting the same game parlay. Give me the Colorado Avalanche, 8-2-0 in their last 10 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Excuse me. So I love Colorado on the money line. That's pick number 1. I'm going to the over. And I know that it's been an even split, 5 and 5, 5 over 500 in the last 10 between these two. But actually, if you look at both recent games just solo, 16 goals combined for the last 2 games for Colorado and 17 goals combined for the Chicago Blackhawks. Hit me with the over, and we can't show this man all the flowers. Come on here and talk about Nathan MacKinnon on a 15-game heater. And I'm not going to go back to the well and parlay all of these together. Nathan MacKinnon, anytime assist. That's my lock of the night, Steele. I love doing this. In 37 career regular season games for Nathan MacKinnon, 37 points, 12 goals, 25 assists. Nathan MacKinnon, anytime assist. Give me the over and give me Colorado on the money line. I hope this is yet another same game parlay banger.
I absolutely love that same game parlay.
Oh!
I'm definitely adding that for a parlay of itself in my own account. So I'm going to keep eyes on what you're doing all week long because I absolutely love that take for Tuesday night. I've got picks from three different games here. Starting off, I'm going to take the Sabres Blue Jackets over 6.5 at minus 120 on Tuesday night. 7 of their last matchups between these two teams went well over the number. So I'm taking the over at over 6.5 in this matchup at minus 120. That's going to be my lock of the night. Actually, my second pick. It's a little, as of right now, it's Mitch Marner anytime goal plus 195. I want to see what the odds are at for over 1.5 points because he's been absolutely killing it lately. But as of right now, it's anytime goal at plus 195. 4 goals, 9 points in his 4-game point streak currently.
He's
Maple Leafs are going to be playing the New York Rangers. Obviously, the Rangers got their butt whooped last week in that 7-3 loss to the Maple Leafs at home for them. Now they're on the road at Scotiabank Arena. I think it's going to be obviously a really good game between these two clubs, but Mitch Marner's been really, really special of late, and I've really loved his game, so I got to show him some credit. And then the final pick of the night, Golden Knights money line plus 116 against the Carolina Hurricanes. This is a 50-50 split decision for me. Not for me, but it's a 50-50 split between these two teams because in their last 10 games, it's been 5-5. So literally a 50-50 split. But I'll take Vegas plus money any day of the week, especially since they've been the way better team, one of the best teams in the NHL. The Carolina Hurricanes just have not been great as of late. I'm going to pull up the standings and what they've done. They've lost their last 2 games in overtime, but the Carolina Hurricanes are currently 3-4-3 in their last 10 games, and the Vegas Golden Knights are 7-1-2. So if you're going to give me Golden Knights plus 116 against these Hurricanes, I'm going to take it every single day of the week. So that is my last pick. Lock of the night going to be the Sabres Blue Jackets over 6.5. Flips lock of the night, Nathan MacKinnon, Nate Dogg, anytime assist. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And again, go to Locked On Sports today. They've launched the first ever 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, covered by local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So you got to go there to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode of Flip and I. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your bets, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Go Bills.